Imagine waking up one morning with a heavy and unsettling thought. What if the life you've been living is not truly your own? What if every choice you've made, every belief you hold, and even the desires that keep you moving forward did not come from your deepest self, but from the expectations, conditioning, and invisible pressures of the world around you? Think carefully about this. How much of your identity comes from your authentic self, and how much is simply a carefully constructed mask shaped by external demands? How often do you feel like you're just acting out a role, following a script written by society, by your family, or by fears whispering quietly in your mind? This is where Carl Gustav Jung's insight strikes with incredible force. Life does not truly begin until you find yourself. But what does it actually mean to find yourself? Is it only about being more self-aware? Or is there something deeper, more transformative, waiting beneath the surface? Stay with me, because as we go through this journey, you will see why most people never truly find themselves and how you can begin the process. And at the end, we'll arrive at a final realization, one so powerful that it can transform not only the way you see yourself, but also the way you live and relate to the world around you. Carl Jung was not like other psychologists of his time. He was a pioneer of depth psychology. While many of his peers focused on helping people simply adjust to society's rules, Jung believed that real psychological growth requires going far deeper. He explored the vast hidden realms of the unconscious mind. He spoke about a journey toward individuation, the process of becoming one's most authentic self. But here's the reality. Most people never take this journey. They remain trapped inside an identity shaped by external forces. They live by expectations that were handed to them. They chase approval. They chase validation. They search for happiness and success or belonging. And yet deep within, there is always a quiet unrest, a constant whisper that something is missing. Jung taught that life begins only when we stop running from ourselves. But before we explore what it means to find yourself, we must first look honestly at what prevents so many people from ever doing so. From the very beginning of life, we are conditioned. We're given names, labels, and roles. We're taught what behaviors are rewarded and which are punished. We're shown what's acceptable and what is not. This process is so subtle and so constant that most of us never think to question it. Instead, we adapt. We conform. And slowly, we begin to suppress the parts of ourselves that don't fit. Think back to your childhood. Were there times when you expressed yourself freely only to be told you were too sensitive or too unrealistic, or that your dreams and feelings were inappropriate? Over time, those parts of yourself got hidden away. You tucked them deep inside where no one could see them. And in that moment, you began building what Jung called the persona. The persona is the mask we wear for the world. It helps us fit in, helps us function in society, and gives us acceptance. But the danger is this: the more we identify with the mask, the further we drift from our true selves. We start to believe that we are the mask. We forget there is something deeper, more real beneath it. On the other side of that mask lies what Jung called the shadow. If the persona is what we show the world, the shadow is what we hide from it. It holds everything we've rejected, denied, or suppressed: our fears, our desires, our insecurities, even hidden strengths. And here's the important truth. The shadow doesn't disappear just because we ignore it. It does not vanish simply because we refuse to look at it. Instead, it lingers beneath the surface, shaping our thoughts, driving our behaviors, and fueling our emotional reactions. The pieces of ourselves we reject don't go away. They show up in unconscious ways, often as projection. Have you ever disliked someone instantly without really knowing why? Have you ever been triggered strongly by another person's behavior, far more than the situation seemed to call for? Jung believed that when qualities in others disturb us, it is often because those qualities live inside us, hidden within our own shadow. But here's the insight that changes everything. The shadow is not your enemy. Inside it lies the key to self-discovery. Jung's great discovery was that psychological growth does not come from eliminating the shadow. It comes from integrating it. It means turning toward the very parts of yourself you've denied. When you do, you unlock a deep source of authenticity, strength, and freedom. And this is where the real journey begins. So I ask you, are you ready to face the truth of who you really are? Are you ready to break free from illusions that have shaped your identity? Because what comes next may challenge everything you thought you knew about yourself. But it also may open the door to a life that finally feels like it belongs to you. Most people go through life assuming they know who they are. They define themselves by their name, their job, their family role, their culture, their past experiences. But Jung argued that identity is much more complex. The version of yourself you believe in may be only a surface-level construct, a fraction of a deeper, more profound reality. Jung believed that within each of us exists a hidden world, a vast inner landscape filled with forgotten memories, suppressed emotions, unacknowledged desires, and untapped potential. The key to finding yourself is not in building a new identity, but in uncovering what has long been buried inside. Think about whether you've ever felt a deep longing for something more, a quiet sense that a greater version of you is waiting to emerge. That's not fantasy. That's your unconscious mind calling to you. Jung called this process individuation. True fulfillment, he argued, does not come from conforming to expectations. It comes from integrating every part of yourself, the light and the dark, the strengths and the flaws. But before we integrate, we must confront. And that's where so many stop, because facing yourself is uncomfortable. It requires looking at the parts you'd rather not see. It requires questioning old beliefs, challenging fears, and confronting inner conflicts. Think about how much effort we put into avoiding this. We bury ourselves in work, we scroll endlessly, we binge on entertainment, we seek constant noise and distraction, all to avoid being alone with our thoughts. This constant distraction is not an accident. It's a defense mechanism. But the hidden parts of us do not go away. They show themselves as anxiety, self-sabotage, toxic relationships, or a constant sense of being lost. Jung said the unconscious mind is always speaking. We simply stop listening. But if we begin to pay attention, we start to see the patterns. We see how old wounds shape our choices. We see how suppressed desires influence our behavior. We see how the very things we fear most may hold the lessons we need. Take fear of rejection. Many people live terrified of judgment. They seek approval, avoid conflict, and silence their real voice just to maintain harmony. But where does this fear come from? Is it really about other people? Or does it trace back to something deeper, perhaps a childhood wound, a moment of feeling invisible or unworthy? Jung would say this fear is a shadow aspect. Until you face it, it controls you quietly. But when you finally confront it, everything changes. Imagine living without fear of judgment. Imagine speaking your truth without hesitation. Imagine making choices based not on others' expectations, but on what feels true inside. That's individuation. It's not about becoming someone new. It's about becoming more of who you really are. So how do we begin? Jung believed that dreams, symbols, and introspection are powerful tools. Dreams are messages from the deeper self. Creative expression, art, writing, music, becomes a doorway into the unconscious. But above all, awareness is the key. The moment you begin questioning your thoughts and beliefs, you've already taken the first step. The moment you stop running from discomfort and face it with curiosity, you begin to reclaim yourself. And here's the truth. Most people never take the step. They live as strangers to themselves. They follow paths laid out for them. They suppress their true nature. They never realize that their greatest strength lies in embracing every part of who they are. But you don't have to be one of them. You can break free. You can strip away layers of conditioning and fear. You can finally step into life fully, unafraid, unapologetic. This brings us to something deeper still, the archetypes within us. Jung described archetypes as ancient, universal patterns stored in the collective unconscious, an inheritance shared by all human beings. These archetypes shape our thoughts, emotions, and behavior. They appear in myths, religions, literature, and dreams. The hero, the wise mentor, the villain, the innocent child. These figures are not just fictional characters. They are psychological forces within us. Take the hero archetype. It's the part of you that longs for purpose, that seeks to overcome challenges and become more. But alongside it always lies the shadow, the fears, doubts, and obstacles you must face. In myths, the hero cannot grow without confronting the shadow. The same is true for us. Perhaps you've had moments when you knew you needed to change but found yourself resisting. You wanted to step forward, but fear and self-doubt pulled you back. That's the battle between the hero and the shadow playing out inside you. The mistake most people make is trying to suppress the shadow. But Jung taught that true transformation comes only through integration. Instead of rejecting fear, ask, where does it come from? What lesson does it hold? Could your doubt carry a hidden strength, like humility, reflection, or perspective? When we shift from seeing struggles as weaknesses to seeing them as messages, everything changes. Archetypes don't stop with the hero and the shadow. There are many: the anima, the animus, the wise old man, the child, the mother. Jung emphasized especially the anima and animus, the inner feminine within men and the inner masculine within women. These are not about physical gender, but about balance. The anima carries intuition, creativity, and emotional depth. The animus carries structure, logic, and assertiveness. When balanced, they create wholeness. When denied, they cause inner conflict. For example, a man who rejects his anima may fear vulnerability and struggle to express emotion. A woman who rejects her animus may hesitate to assert herself, doubting her authority. But when these energies are integrated, they unlock immense power. And this leads to one of Jung's most important truths. To find yourself, you must embrace every part of yourself, the light and the dark, the masculine and the feminine, the known and the unknown. Individuation is not about becoming different. It is about becoming whole. But there's still one final revelation, the deepest illusion of all. Most people believe their identity is fixed, that they are a single, unchanging self. But Jung, along with many philosophers and mystics, argued otherwise. The self is not static, it is fluid. It is greater than the ego's stories. What if the person you believe yourself to be right now is only one fragment of something vast? What if your true self is not limited by labels, roles, or even one lifetime of experiences? Jung described the self as the totality of who you are, not the small ego, but the deeper, timeless self that holds every possibility. The realization is both liberating and frightening, because it means that every fear, every limit, every label you cling to is only a construct. You are not just an isolated individual. You are part of a vast field of consciousness. Within you lies the wisdom of generations, the depth of the unconscious, and potential beyond imagination. So why do we feel so limited? Why do we live with doubt and fear? The answer lies in the ego. The ego is not the enemy. It helps us navigate life, but it also traps us. It defines who we think we are, and in doing so, it builds walls. When we cling to the ego, we stay stuck. But when we loosen our grip, we begin to expand. How do we do this? Jung offered guidance. First, embrace the unknown. Growth happens in mystery, not certainty. Second, release labels. You are not only your job, your name, your past, you are more. Third, listen to the unconscious. Your dreams and instincts are not random. They are messages. Finally, surrender to the process. Finding yourself is not a one-time achievement. It's an unfolding layer by layer. And here's the most powerful truth of all. You were never really lost. The self you've been seeking has always been here, waiting to be remembered. So now the choice is yours. Will you continue to live as only a fragment of who you are, tied down by fear and illusion? Or will you step into the unknown, embracing the limitless self you were always meant to become? Because life does not truly begin until you find yourself.